I am Maeve Ferguson and I am the CEO of Maeve Ferguson Consulting. And I am so excited for this episode today where we dance through a conversation moving from racehorses to private equity to how to turn your IP into a client engine. This was a fun conversation and I hope you enjoy.
Now, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs come to discover proven strategies, inspiring stories, and the real behind-the-scenes lessons that help to create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Now, I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be diving into a story that perfectly blends great strategy and humanity. Now, our guest today is the incredible Maeve Ferguson. Now, Maeve, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited for this conversation, and if the pre-chat is anything to go by, I think it is going to be a pretty funny episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm actually shaking in my boots, having heard what you've done, where you've been, and everything else. I literally was about to cancel the show, and I was like, "This is gonna take a while." Thank you so much. For those that are tuning in right now, maybe it's a business strategist and the creator of the Client Engine, and it's a proven system that helps authors, consultants, and experts turn their intellectual property into diagnostic funnels that actually attract and convert high-ticket clients. Now, she runs a multi-six-figure consultancy from a horse farm in Northern Ireland. And yes, you heard that right. It's from a horse farm. So sometimes she might actually be talking to her clients on horseback. We'll hear about that in the episode. And while she's also been raising two kids and serving some of the biggest thought leaders on the planet. And what actually makes Maeve's story extraordinary is not just her success, but it's the actual comeback. All right. After she spent 4 years bedridden with a virus that almost took everything from her, she's actually rebuilt her life from scratch. And today she actually helps others build businesses that can thrive in any season. And if you've heard the times and the hours that she was waking up and doing some work while she was in Melbourne, yeah, you can tell that she's built for speed and not for comfort. And because she actually knows what it's like to lose it all and rebuild stronger. So if you've ever faced burnout, self-doubt, maybe just fallen off your horse, and you thinking to yourself, can I really come back from this? I think this episode will have a thing or two for you. But before we jump in, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show on YouTube and maybe Spotify or wherever it is that you're tuning in from, because every week we're going to be bringing you stories and strategies that really remind you that prosperity is a possible entity. It's not a pipe dream, no matter where you're going to be starting from. Now, Maeve, I could go on and on around in circles and maybe start panting or running out of breath here. You've actually built an incredible life and obviously a business from a horse farm in Northern Ireland. Let's just start there. Do horses ever get jealous of your clients?
Do the horses ever get jealous? No, I don't think so. But I think it gives a beautiful duality to life, I think, is how I would describe it. Because, say, for example, last week I was in New York City for the whole week. I was attending Gen Chem's Thought Leadership Forum, doing the whole kind of Manhattan, high life type thing. And then, just 24 hours later, I'm here with my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old mucking out horses. And I love how it keeps everything so real. And I love how it keeps everybody so grounded. And most of all, I love the life that my kids are getting to grow up in, being surrounded by horses, cattle, cat, dog, catching mice, all the works.
Oh, absolutely. I can only imagine what it looks like there. Do the kids have a pony each, or how does it work?
Yeah, so they have a little pony. They're only 5 and 3, so they're still little. So they are learning to ride, i.e., walking. They're not like they're not riding properly yet, but yeah, we're they're getting there. They have a little pony to practice on.
Absolutely. So why horses? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so horses, I feel like it's something that's either in your blood or it's not, and especially so I'm in horse racing specifically. That's the kind of the main domain that we are in, and it feels like something that it's so in your blood that it is the only obvious thing that you would want to be in and do. Whereas other people that aren't into, like my best friend, like is scared of horses, and she genuinely like doesn't understand and can't see the attraction. It's like, why would you want to get up in the rain and go out and feed 60 horses in the morning? Why would you want to have a 365 days a year thing that they have to be looked after? It's Christmas Day, it doesn't matter, and it's basically in your blood. And I started riding when I was a kid, and I had this big dream, and horses were always part of it. And I actually went on and did my undergraduate degree, so my Bachelor of Science degree. I actually did it in equine science. Kind of that's how far down the horse rabbit hole I was willing to go. And I ended up, as we talked about in the pre-show, then I won a scholarship in like my basically what's called a gap year here. And I headed off to New Zealand and Australia and Singapore, traveling around the world and riding racehorses, and had an absolute ball.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that must have been a lot of fun. But, you did say horses are something that are either in you or not. And you've also explained that you're exposing your kids to horses. Is it in their blood, or they don't have a choice?
I think it's like I hope so, but I don't think I'll ever be the type of parent to force them into something. I think my little boy particularly seems to have more of an interest in cattle. I do not have any interest in cattle apart from good steak, but he is obsessed with the cattle. So like we're just allowing him to, if that's the road he wants to go down, and he enjoys that more than the horses, that's fine. Their granddad, my father-in-law, used to be a racehorse trainer. He's a bloodstock agent. My husband works in the industry as well, but we're not going to force them into loving horses if they don't. But their entire life is surrounded by it, and all of the things that go with young thoroughbreds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But you see, everything about you just stems horses. I mean, even your undergrad and you graduate and everything else, you travel the world just so you could see more horses, as if the horses in Ireland were not enough, like.
Yep. And then I married a man, and I live in a horse farm.
Oh, great. You'd never get bored from the neighing. They're always neighing, putting carrots.
No, it's quite sweet. You wake up in the morning and it's like Ireland, so it's wet here at the minute. It's mostly wet all the time, but it's you get up in the morning and it's like dark and wet, and then they're so happy to see you coming out, and they're nickering and saying hello and all of those things. But it's also not glamorous. So people are like, "Oh, how fancy! You live in a horse farm," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's like 2 foot of mud and wellies and knee-length, big warm coats to keep you warm." So it's not all glamour, but it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But horses cost a lot of money, and obviously the upkeep of them, and just them being a horse, they need to be driven around in fancy cars, I've noticed, and all that stuff. Now, how have you been managing for that?
Yeah, so the transport bit is easy because my husband does horse transport, so that's pretty easy. So he has the trucks and the wagons and all of the things, and then so a lot of it comes down to business. Now we also run the horse farm as a business, so that's what my husband's business is. So for a lot of racehorse owners, we keep their foals and their yearlings, 2-year-olds, etc., and kind of look after them in those early chapters of life for them. So that's my husband's actual business. And then, in terms of ourselves, it all comes back to the way I always look at these things is what life do we want to live, and then how do we make that happen? And how we have chosen to make that happen is I left my big high-flying corporate career in the private equity industry, set up my own business, and through courage and grit, rolling up my sleeves and figuring it out, we were able to live this life.
So you did mention, you had a corporate career in private equity. What was that all about?
Yeah, so it was so much fun. So basically, after I finished my my undergraduate degree, I was an amateur steeplechase jockey, and so like jumping over steeplechase fences for fun on the weekends, in races, and I ended up getting really, really badly smashed up. So at this stage, I was kind of about halfway through my master's degree in management, and I got really badly smashed up in a steeplechase race, lost my jockey license, and paralyzed one of my eyes, and just was like an absolute wreck basically for 9 months. Had a lot of kind of neurological problems and a lot of pain issues and stuff with my neck. And then whenever I recovered from that, I went back, finished my master's, and then I headed off to Ernst & Young, so one of the big four global consultancy firms, and I did several years over in London, working in financial services, doing the whole early years of big four corporate, where you're climbing the ladder, you're putting in the hours, you're doing the work and all of those things. And then I got a beautiful opportunity to move back to Northern Ireland for a brand new company in the private equity space that had opened an office there. So I jumped on that, and I ran a team of 47 people and absolutely loved that job. And then essentially that's how I ended up becoming an entrepreneur. Is a very, very, very long story cut short. After a few years there, I caught a virus, and then I spent about 4 years going between bed and the sofa, just really, really, really sick with this virus, and it just completely took me out. And it was a really tough chapter, because I was the type of person, I was running and winning long distance races. I trained 6 days a week. The virus hit me one morning when I was doing my lap training in the pool before work. I was that type of person, very type A, very, very driven. And yeah, just ripped the carpet from under me.
Now, you did put in a lot of things in that. So let's just start back to the time where did you say you fell off a horse and you get...
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah. That obviously would have taken you out, and you would have sworn yourself off horses from that.
No way. No. I was badly wrecked, so I had, anyway, I won't get into the drama of all of the physical issues that I had with that fall. I did lose my jockey license, and that was like the saddest thing I probably have ever experienced in my life, because I knew I would never be allowed to race again. But pardon me, it didn't stop me wanting to ride. No.
Absolutely. And while you were, in corporate, did you ever miss riding, or how did you?
So I used to fly home. So I was with my partner, my now husband. We were still together when I was in London. So I used to fly home every weekend to see him ride the horses, go to the races, and then fly back to London. So again, I was living this like double life, where I had like corporate version of me of Monday through Friday, fly home on Friday nights, back into the wellies, and then back to London on a Monday morning. And we did that for a few years.
No, you then had that time when you had 4 years of being bedridden. Like you said, it was between the couch and just your bed. For somebody who was so driven, you've been a high flyer, you've been all these places, and now you can't physically do anything. What was going on in your mind when you realized that this was going to change?
Yeah, it was a tough chapter, because I think the early year, the first year of it, I was so sick that all you were trying to do was just kind of get through the day. And then it also at that stage was very much like, it never entered my head that I wouldn't get better, because it was just basically a flu. Just like what felt like I just caught the flu and it didn't go away. So it never had entered my head in like that first year or so that this mightn't go away. And as we started then to move into, I think it was the second year, so 2016 was like the worst year. So that's when I had to get the wheelchair to get around the house. And it was just, I couldn't lift the weight of a cup of tea. Like, it was literally somebody was having to lift it to put it into my mouth. And again, for somebody who was a jockey and running marathons, to not being able to do that, it was mind bending. That was probably, it was the hardest year physically, but it was probably the easiest year mentally because I was so sick. Like, I remember my day getting down to just make it through to 11 o'clock, just make it through to lunchtime, just make it through to I had to take a bath every day at 3 o'clock to ease the pain. So it's like, just get through to your bath. And then once I had my bath, it was like dinner and bed. But I was just sleeping around the clock. So that year, and then the next year, it was kind of on the cusp of that third year. It was like, this can't be it. Like, this is not going to be my life. This cannot possibly. And then the more, I'm a very tenacious person, and the more I fought and the harder I tried, or you get like a little window of a day where you didn't feel too bad, so you would try and go for a cup of coffee or something like that. And that exertion of going for a cup of coffee, then you would be flat on your back for a couple of weeks afterwards because it was too much for your body to handle. So I was in this dance basically of pushing too hard, crashing, pushing too hard, crashing. And what ended up happening is like the only way I got better then was when I got this, like, kind of accepted and got the wheelchair and allowed it to, even getting from my bed to the sofa and back again and out to the bathroom through the day, using the wheelchair for that saved energy. And then I was able to, in my mind, put that energy towards recovery and getting better. And I do believe a lot of it was just passage of time. And I mean, I bought all of the programs, all of the, these magic yourself better stuff. I've been doing all sorts of rabbit holes. I went a whole clean diet. I went chemical free. Like, I mean, we tried absolutely everything. And I genuinely believe it was just passage of time. Passage of time. And eventually my body got better. And that was it.
4 years is quite a long time. I mean, I remember what was happening in 2020, and that was almost 4 or 5 years ago, and it feels like forever. And I can imagine what that would have been going through for somebody who had been a globetrotter, somebody who'd been working in high stakes private equity, or maybe speed of horsepower to be, relegated to a wheelchair. And, most people would have given up after that. I would have been curled up, and as if I got better, I just would, stay put, because wow.
I think it's one of those things. It's also like, this is not the life I am going to live. And I was so blessed. My partner, now my husband, he just he stood by me every single step of the way. I think the hardest bit for me was I was in my early 30s at this stage. And I thought by that stage I'd be getting married and having babies, and like, I really wanted to be a mum. And I think that was the hardest piece, was that, if you can't lift a cup of tea, how do you have I have a 3-year-old now, like, you can't do that if you're not well. Like, physically, it takes so much out of you. And that was probably the hardest piece for me, was not knowing if I was going to get better, and then when I got better, it was going to be too late to have kids,
Absolutely. Right. Now, I mean, from the way you work, you talk about building a business that actually honors both your brilliance and your humanity. And I'm thinking all of that would have really stemmed from those sort of experiences and what you were going through. Now, what does it look like today?
Yeah, so we run a consultancy firm now, where we turn, as you mentioned earlier, experts' intellectual property and help them codify that into diagnostic assessments. And the reason, essentially, so that's a very fancy way of saying that we allow them to allow their body of work to live beyond the book, beyond their keynote speech. Because what happens, most experts, is that they have this incredible IP, but it's either inside of their brain, or it ends at the book, or it ends on the stage. They don't actually have a way to turn it into a lead generating system, lead generating infrastructure that not only gives them the data and the insights into their market, but also hands to them on a plate really, really high quality leads.
Absolutely. And maybe we can go into that a little bit. So do the people need to come to you before they've written a book, during, or after they've written a book so that it actually syncs?
Yeah. So the book piece is just one set of people. So we don't have to have a book at all. So that's what's one thing. They work best for prescriptive nonfiction authors if you are an author, and it works on both ends of the spectrum. So, for example, one of our clients, Jen Kemp, so she's a big kind of 8-figure brand strategist in America. She actually baked her assessment into her best-selling book Unicorn Team. So that's one way of doing it, where you are actually building it into the fabric of the book. It's in the chapters, it's included. And the whole idea then is that people are reading your book, they're so bought in, they take your assessment and obviously then end up in your email list for you to nurture and convert into clients over time. So that's one way of doing it. But we're working with another client right now who had an international bestseller back in 2020. And this is a way of kind of breathing life back into that whole brand. Okay, so we're building the diagnostic literally from his book, and it's all part of this ecosystem. So it's not one is first and one is second, and if you're halfway through your book it's too late. It doesn't work like that. It's just a giant ecosystem where your assessment brings people into your book world, your book people brings people into your assessment, and the whole idea ultimately is that it is bringing these high ticket clients into your business.
No, Maeve, you see, written a book, it's there. You've done the whole Amazon bestseller, you've done the whole launch. Why should I bother? It's done. Why should anyone keep trying to poke a dead, I was going to say horse, but then I didn't know how.
But yeah, well, my view on that would be it doesn't need to be a dead horse, okay? So if this book, if this body of work, you obviously have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears just to get it to that stage. And the thing that really, really breaks my heart is that so many really talented authors do that. They do all of the work, they tick all of the boxes, and then they sell 6 copies. And it is very, very difficult to kind of swallow that is all, these are the only people in the world that actually wanted to read your work. It becomes very, very difficult. And what the assessment does is that it builds a permanent infrastructure around it to bring leads in, to buy more books from your book. If, especially if you're self-pub, you can put your assessment in after and just update it, and you can then drive people into your list. So again, it's everything in life, in my view, is choice. Okay, so our choice is we can mark our book up as a failure, that it didn't hit. So yes, we might have played the game to get the Amazon bestseller and all of those things, but if we didn't actually share our message with the volume of people that we expected to and wanted to globally, this is the best way to do that. And especially if you want to monetize if you've got a business in the back end of your book, it's not just a random book for the sake of it. Most prescriptive nonfiction authors are writing their book with the view to having business off the back of the book.
Oh, absolutely. And I obviously believe so many people just, like you said, tick boxes, say, oh, I've got a book, and then that's about it. And
I've got a bestseller. And you're like,
yeah,
okay.
I've got a bestseller. And the launch date is actually where a lot of books go to die, because after that, nobody does anything about that. And it just maybe sits in a shelf like this up until you keep it alive. So is that what part of the client engine is, or for those that are not quite familiar with that, what exactly is it?
So the client engine is more around, there's 3 main components to it, and the first of those is this, what I call authority assets, and this is the diagnostic assessment. So there's 3 versions of the diagnostic assessment. There is, on one end of the spectrum, what we all know as the quiz funnel. Okay, so 78 questions, super quick, fun, easy quiz, lead generator. Amazing. They work really, really well in certain industries. At the very, very far end of the spectrum, we have what I would call a true diagnostic. And we build those. These are like the Enneagrams of the world, the DISCs, the Strength Finders, the Unicorn Leadership Type Assessment, that multidimensional, what I would call true diagnostic. And then a third option in the middle is what we call a score-based diagnostic. And none of these are like a poor cousin to the others. There's just different use cases for different companies. And the score-based diagnostic works really well if you have a framework, with pillars and things like that, where we can score people on their performance against certain areas, and their scores then allow them to realize that they need your help, and then they jump on put it in their application to work with you, hop on a call, and sign as your client. And that's kind of the authority assets piece. Then the next piece, so that's how I would describe the foundation. Okay, so if we don't have that, the next bit's not going to work. Okay, there's so many people in this industry, I see they're putting the cart before the horse. They are speaking on stages, and they're writing the books, and they've all of these fancy bells and whistle things, but they don't have the foundations in their business. They don't have leads, offers, sales. They have to have a way of bringing leads into their business, because even with the best diagnostic assessment in the world, whacking it up on the internet is not going to bring high caliber clients through that. We have to have a traffic strategy. We have to have a top of funnel messaging and positioning strategy. Like we talked about earlier, you're not one funnel away. It doesn't work like that. There are more moving parts than some people let on. Okay, so we got to have that foundation in place. Then the second piece, and this is kind of the sexy new angle, this is what we call smart scale. And we build a lot of agentic AI solutions for our clients. And what this allows us to do is essentially attach a flywheel to that infrastructure, to that foundation that we've just built with the assessment, from flywheels to do with revenue generation, improving sales conversion, overhead reduction. There are so many agents that we build that truly expand the sales potential of the business and contract. This is me going back to my accountancy days, but they contract on the overhead side of the business as well. So that's smart scale. And then the third piece of the client engine is this whole piece around having the right offers. So it's called legacy architecture. It's about having the right offers, the right messaging, the right positioning, making sure that we're speaking to our rich niche and not the broke ass end of our markets. The client engine is an entire suite of processes and systems to help really high-end experts convert that IP into high-ticket clients.
Oh, I like that, because so many, like we've already established, so many people think there's just maybe one more speaking engagement and they will obviously buy 1,000 copies or whatever it is that's happening at the event. But if they bought the books and they just put them somewhere in a shelf, or maybe they end up at Goodwill, where some of us just go and collect. You haven't really created, that book hasn't really sort of worked for you. Now, a lot of experts that will be listening to this today are probably stuck between, I hope it works, or and let's make it work type, worlds in there. How can they actually bridge that mindset gap, like you did? Because, people think I've done the book and I think the work is done.
Yeah, well, so it depends on what your definition of that the work is done is. Okay, so I know for me and for a majority of our really high-end clients, we're very growth-minded people. We're always strategizing, building out, 3-year, 5-year plans, strategic moves, making all of those decisions. So if you're the type of person that wrote your book and you don't want it to go any further, that's absolutely perfectly fine. Everything in life is choice. But for those who are on that cusp of, they know they have an amazing body of work, they know that they are truly talented at what they do. These are not people who woke up at 74 and decided they wanted to be a life coach and Googled how to do it on the internet. These are people with true expertise, a true body of work, and they know that they're meant for more. It's not I wonder if I am. They know inherently that they are meant for more, and this is the vehicle that allows them to have that, instead of, banging their head off a brick wall, wondering why they're the world's best kept secret.
So with the kind of work that you're doing, obviously there's a lot of hand holding, there's a lot of gathering and, sitting down with them. What sort of people would you say should actually start thinking of, okay, this could be something that I need to be working with, or what sort of people do you end up working with?
Yeah, so at the moment we tend to work with people who are on what I would call the cusp of thought leadership. So, some of our clients are 9 figures, some of our clients are 8 figures, 7 figures. I'm a big believer that there's a lot of work to be done getting a business to the 350 a year stage. Okay. And it's what this is the number that the reason why I'm picking out this number is that there's a lot of mindset trash in the 0 to 100 space. There's a lot of proof of concept issues. So people are trying to sell the wrong thing, wrong people, and all of that. Foundational work must be in place because, putting an AI agent and bolting it onto something that wasn't working in the first place is not going to, it's just going to show you even at an even greater level that this doesn't work. Okay, so that foundational piece, I think there's a lot of sorting out done in the industry. Well, I describe it as kind of separating the wheat from the chaff for those who, and 350 would be kind of the minimum. Or if you're just starting out, but you also know that you have true expertise, and the whole, I work a lot with my own energetics advisor and confidence mentor and all of that kind of thing. But there's a lot gets sorted out between that 0 to 6 figures, I believe. Okay, and then so the person who this is suitable for is that they already know who they're serving, they know why they're serving them. They have a methodology. Some of them already have kind of named and framed their methodology and their framework, so they've all of that mapped out, but not all of them have it formalized. So just yesterday, I was working with an amazing expert in the real estate space, and she had her framework and her methodology, but it was just inside of her brain. And so what we did yesterday, this is one of the parts of our authority asset process, is what we call IP mapping. So if you don't already have your IP all mapped out on a pretty page, we actually extract it through our process and asking you the right questions. We extract that intellectual property and turn it into the framework. That's kind of the very first step of the process. So it's like, as long as we have a methodology, we're not sitting there Googling, how can I help people with X? Those people are way too early on the journey for this. And so it's a sophisticated system. It's a infrastructure as opposed to a random funnel on the internet.
Oh, absolutely. And we all know that our customers don't see funnels. They just see really good work being presented to them, or a diagnostic that, oh, I didn't know I needed something like that, and things of that nature. So are you marrying some of your expertise in private equity to really bring out, because you're speaking IP, and that's the kind of language that people in private equity, if I can say the word, want to actually invest in, and things of that nature? Is that the sort of...
It's an interesting question. I think what I have taken from my corporate life is my highest value is continuous improvement. I'm a very process driven person. I worked inside of process and control in consultancy. I headed up the continuous improvement and process improvement division in the private equity place that I was working. And I think that is probably the biggest thing, is systems thinking, logic, order, infrastructure. So many people's businesses, even successful people like at 7 figures, their businesses on the back end are a hot mess. And that systems thinking, that infrastructure thinking, that scalability thinking as well, has really lent itself well. But I love that you bring up this private equity thread, because one of the greatest outputs of having these diagnostic assessments in our business is that we end up with thousands of data points on our market. And I'm obsessed with data, the power of data, the value of data. People pay handsomely for data. And if you think about it, if you're gathering all of this data on your market, of their every thought, their every move, their every breath, that is a very valuable asset should you be planning an exit from your company 15 or 20 years from now. And it's like coming from that kind of the long-term thinking, instead of worrying about making 10K today, or whatever the fancy number on the internet that people are like talking about these days. Is like, it's 10K months, and then it's 10K weeks, and now it's 10K days. That's short-term thinking. It's like, what is the long-term play here with the data where in due course, who knows, you could be coming in to invest and buy your company.
I think I quite like this because a lot of thought leaders get stuck in the doing, but you're literally giving people back to themselves here, because once they have, given this IP out, some of them can literally license that, and whatever talk of $10,000 a month is now like, come on, what are we talking about
exactly.
here?
So we're talking, if you look at Disc as the perfect example, where we have licensing, like that moves it from a multi-million-dollar business, into tens of millions of dollars with licensing fees and the infrastructure. So that is definitely one use case. It's definitely one model. We also have white labeling opportunities where you have, personal development IP, and then others are able to white label it. There are many, many, many ways to monetize that assessment once you have that baseline, that foundation inside of your business.
This is some life-changing stuff that you do for people. Is there maybe a client story? I mean, obviously without mentioning names, and maybe things that would direct people to their home asking for money. But that really makes you sit back and think, this is why I do what I do.
I think probably the best use case example here would be Jen Kim. So 8-figure brand strategist. She was writing her book. She's a true thought leader. She is the most strategic human being I know. Very, very, very smart lady. And I don't mean in internet street terms, I mean smart. Okay. And she was writing her book, and her play with her assessment was so strategic that she actually used it as the vehicle to become a bestseller. Okay, and I don't mean these fake bestseller campaigns that people run. Like, I mean a true bestseller. And she sold $25,000 copies of her book on the week that it got published. And she actually used her assessment as a pre-launch strategy, where it was a paid diagnostic. So it was $197 to take the assessment. Okay. Sometimes they can be free, but she did hers as it was paid $197, but you got it free right up until pub date. And the whole play there and the move there was that she was able to then, whenever you bought the book, you got the assessment for free. So she was able to drive book sales pre-pub date, because the value associated with getting this really, really cool diagnostic. And instead of having to pay your $197, you buy the book and you get the diagnostic for free up until pub date. That was a pretty clever move, and she made herself a bestseller with this diagnostic that we built together.
Absolutely. It's not about shouting any louder. Hey, look at me. Hey, this is who I am. It's just about building the right infrastructure so your ideas can actually really be funneled to the right kind of people with the right kind of pain at the right sort of time. And speaking of funnels, just while we're still on that overused word, some people might think, oh, it's a little bit too technical. What's the biggest sort of misconception about funnels that you wish people would understand? And somebody might come to you and say, oh, we've done that, or we already have those, just because somebody told them.
If I had $1 for every time somebody's like, oh, I tried a quiz, it didn't work for me, and it's a type form, and I'm like, that's not a quiz, it's a type form. Come on, people. Yes, I would. I don't know what I would be doing if I had $1 for every time somebody said that. But it's the same thing as anything. Like, can anybody whack up a quiz funnel? Of course they can. Doesn't mean it's any good. Okay, and it's a little bit like me. Can I cook dinner? Yes, I can. But am I a Michelin chef? No, I am not. And it's so there are skill sets involved in doing this well and doing this right. And this is why we only have done for you services. I used to have the whole 10K group coaching program and all of the digital courses, the $47 courses and the $997 courses and the 2K courses and the 10K programs. I spent years having that inside my business, and we moved completely into done for you services, where we actually build everything for the client. We write all of the copy, we build all the infrastructure, we set up all the systems, we do all of the hookup with your existing CRM and all of those things. And the reason being is that we truly believe that we want the expert to focus on their body of work, not trying to figure out how to tag stuff in GHL. Yeah. So
Mm,
allowing them to truly be, and this is like, again, I see the difference between, the eagles and these thought leaders in the space who know, let somebody else handle that, that's their zone of expertise, versus the people who are holding on to their credit card and they think that they're going to figure it out themselves. And then 2.5 years down the line, they realized, it's sitting on their desktop and just went to die.
mm. In this world, in this internet space, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands full. You know what I mean? Like right now, we're in two different time zones, and I bet your engines are running. My engines are also, cranking up, a whole lot of things happening. But some people, you reach out to them and they're like, oh, why don't we have a call to fix calendars? And I'm like, oh, is that even good?
They're
Now,
working on the wrong hard things.
absolutely. Obviously, I know you want to go off and ride your horses and, kiss your kids and things of that nature. For those that are looking to connect with you, where can they go on the internet and find you, Maeve?
Yeah, so probably the best place is LinkedIn. So just search for Maeve Ferguson on LinkedIn. If you want to go through an example of a score-based diagnostic, you can go to impactscoreassessment.com. And I'm sure we'll hook that up in the show notes and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. All those links will be in the show notes below so that people can actually, find their way to your properties. Now, you you've gone through what we call seasons in life. There was the, I'm in Melbourne and
I have lived 10 lives.
yeah, I'm in Melbourne. You just gotta look outside, and then by the time you look back again, and it's a whole nother season going on and things of that nature. But you've been obviously the time when you had that fall, and then you also then became the high flyer in the corporate world, and then you had your 4 year time that you were going through stuff, and now you've got kids. I bet that's a whole nother season
Yeah.
in and of itself. If
It's
you
a
could
season.
maybe if you could maybe go back and look at the time where, like you said, you couldn't even lift a cup of tea, did you ever think your life would be where you're at to like now? I'm not talking about being on the online prosperity show, but that's something. But I'm just talking about where you
Yeah.
are
I
now.
think, yeah, for me, I even when I was a little kid, I always knew it was a little bit different. It was popular, I had friends, I ticked all the boxes, but I always felt different to other people, and I always knew there was something special there. I think my mistake in my teens and in my 20s was that I was waiting for an idea. So I thought there was like, once I have an idea, then I'll go and start my business. The idea actually comes when you're in it. So like what I do now is not when I first left corporate, I retrained as an executive coach because it seemed like a logical move based on where I was. What I do now, building agentic AI and diagnostic infrastructure, could not be further away from executive coaching, but I had to start to get in it to end up where I am. And I literally cannot wait to see like where am I going to be in 5 years, where am I going to be in 10 years. And I think it's having that inner knowing, it's having that vision, even if you don't actually know what it's going to be, but trusting yourself. Was it scary to walk away from my high paying career and like figure out how to feed myself? Of course it was. But like tenacity and grit, and just stick with it, do the work, and have that undying, even in the times in your business where it is hard. Like, I mean, hard. This has not been all sunshine and roses for me. Have that inner belief in yourself that you know you are meant for more.
This is beautiful, thread in your story about resilience, reinvention, and just redefining success in your own words. But now that you've brought us into your world, what's next? What can we be excited about that you're probably working on, or something that you can hint towards in the future? Maybe, I don't know, you're putting together your own book,
Yeah,
or
well, yes. Yeah, so there's a book in progress. Probably the most exciting thing is the agentic AI things that we are working on. So my mentor in that space is a guy called Sam Woods. He is absolutely incredible, like just completely, and we're not talking ChatGPT stuff here. We're talking true agentic AI, and that's where I see the future. And I am very blessed and very lucky that my brain works in that way. So I just get it. I can see it. I can build it. I can swoop up and see the big picture. And then I'm also the gremlin that's sitting there, like able to actually build these things. And I think that's what I'm most excited about is the level of possibility that is sitting here for all of us is wild at the moment.
Oh, absolutely. But you do, I mean, we had finished off well, but you do realize you've actually committed the ultimate sin on the online prosperity show, Maeve.
Oh no.
Yeah, I
Oh
mean,
no.
you don't hint on writing a book and not promise to come and maybe launch it again on the online prosperity show. So you've got
Okay,
two
I can
seconds
do
to.
that. Can't do that. Okay, I was like, what did I do?
Oh,
Oh,
fantastic.
I
Thank you so much for your time today. I mean, your life story and your experience have so much value for people that are just obviously caught in a season of life. And there's always a comeback, and you could actually come back bigger, better, and faster, And thank you so much for going through that journey and also, letting us know about it today on the Online Prosperity Show.
just like sometimes when you're in it, it's just like take a breath and then make choices. Because that's all life is one choice after the next, and just make good choices. But take a beat and allow yourself to land the plane, focus on where we're going, and then off we go.
Absolutely. And from what I've learned from you today is whatever you're going through in life, you have to be paying attention because one day you'll have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity
Yeah. Probably, hopefully not as random as mine, but thank you so much for having me. This has been a real joy. What a lovely start to my morning.
Absolutely. Well, what a powerful reminder that your season doesn't define your story, it's your response to it that actually does. And Maeve Ferguson has just shown us that even if life brings you to a standstill, you can actually rebuild as something more aligned, more intentional, and infinitely more fulfilling. And sometimes you might think, oh, you are being dealt a wrong card, yet you're actually being redirected to the thing that will actually fulfill you the most. So if today's conversation really spoke to you, maybe you're in that rebuilding phase or life has just thrown a couple of lemons your way, and maybe you're ready to bring your business to be more sustainable and soul aligned, I encourage you to maybe just go and connect with Maeve Ferguson. I'll put the links to, her website there, and also check out the client engine. Okay, I've heard that no horses were injured in the creation of this engine, so
Oh, you're too
no
funny.
horsepower in it. All right, and obviously, yeah, just share this episode with somebody who's on the verge of maybe giving up, because sometimes one story is all it takes to reignite belief. Until next time, I'm not sure what you're going to do with this story, but bye for now.